Hello, 8th grade. We're going to start the one and only Bob. Confession. Look, nobody ever accused me of being a good dog. I bark at empty air. I eat cat litter. I roll in garbage to enhance my aroma. I harass innocent squirrels. I hog the couch. I lick myself in the presence of company. I'm no saint, okay? And while I'm at it, I may or may not have eaten a pepperoni pizza with anchovies when nobody was looking. Also, I may or may not have eaten a coconut vanilla birthday cake when nobody was looking. Also, I may or may not have eaten a Thanksgiving turkey, except for the stuffing, way too much rosemary, when nobody was looking. Nobody looking, that seems to be the common thread. As they say on crime shows, motive and opportunity. Name's Bob. I'm a mutt of uncertain heritage, definitely some Chihuahua, and a smidgen of Papillon on my father's side. You're probably thinking I'm some wimpy lapdog, the kind you see poking out of an old lady's purse like a hairy keychain. But size ain't everything. It's swagger, attitude. You gotta have the moves. Probably I should have been named Bruiser or Bam Bam or Bandit, but Bob's what I got. Bob'll do me just fine. Julia named me. Long time ago, she's my girl. She calls me Robert when I get on her nerves. Happens pretty often, to be honest. There's an old saying about us dogs. Goes like this. It's no coincidence that man's best friend can't talk. Let me tell you something. If we could talk to people, they'd get an earful. You ever hear anyone mention that man being dog's best friend? Nope, didn't think so. Way I've always figured it, end of the day, you gotta be your own best friend. Look out for numero uno. Learned that one the hard way. That's not to say I don't have a best pal. I do. Gorilla named Ivan. Big guy and I go way, way back. Gorilla and dog. Yep, I know. You don't see that every day. Long story. I love that big old ape. Ditto our little friend, Ruby. They're the best. How we met. First time I met Ivan, I was a homeless puppy. Desperate, starving, all alone. It was the middle of the night, and I'd slipped into the mall where Ivan lived in a cage. I wandered a bit, grateful for the warmth, confused by the weird assortment of sleeping animals I'd found there, checking every trash can for anything edible. There's a small hole in the corner of Ivan's enclosure. He was fast asleep, cuddling up with a worn stuffed animal that looked like a weary gorilla. He was snoring, and man, that guy snored like a pro. In his open palm was a chunk of banana. And I still get shivers when I think about this. I ate it right out of his hand. Guy could have squeezed his fingers shut and I would have popped like a puppy balloon. But he just kept on sleeping. Then more shivers. I'm either a maniac or the bravest dog on the planet. Probably a little of both. I hopped up onto his big, round, furry tummy. That's right, I climbed Mount Ivan. Crazy, I know. I have no idea what I was thinking. Maybe I was so exhausted I went a little bonkers. Maybe he just looked so warm and cozy that I figured it was worth taking a chance. I did my best boogie. Dogs don't feel right till we do a quick dance before settling. Once I had things just so, I lay down in a little puppy lump and rode the waves on that tummy like a puny boat on a great brown sea. When Ivan opened his eyes the next morning, he didn't seem surprised in the least to find a puppy snoozing on his belly. He refused to move until I woke up. I think he was as glad as I was to have found a new friend. The amazing history of man's best friend. Before long, me and Ivan were best buddies. We're an unlikely pair, sure. Ivan's calm and serene, a philosopher, an artist. I wish I could be more like that. No one ever accused me of being level-headed. Hot-headed, sure. And I can't talk pretty like Ivan can. I'm a street dog after all, and proud of it. Still, we clicked in a way I never had with humans. Man's best friend? No way. Gorilla's best friend? You bet. Seems to me the first time I ever heard that phrase, man's best friend, was while I was watching TV with Ivan. Back in the day, Ivan had this little television, and we watched a lot of stuff together. Old movies, westerns, cartoons, you name it. The poor guy was stuck in a cage. Didn't have a lot else to do except throw meatballs at gaping humans. Anyway, me and Ivan, big fan of the two. Cat food commercials, pro bowling, Dancing with the Stars. What's not to like? Once we watched the special on Nature Channel. It was called The Amazing History of Man's Best Friend. Show was all about famous dogs. There were rescue dogs and therapy dogs and war dogs and fire dogs and movie dogs and this dog and that dog. And between you and me, most of them were just plain overachievers. Then they got to this dog named Hatch something or other. Hatchet Toe, maybe? Seems his owner died. For the record, I object to the word owner, but we'll set that aside for now. Hatch something or other sat around for over 9 years in the same spot at the same train station, day after day, waiting for him to return. Thing is, the narrator guy was babbling on and on about this dog. Really over-the-top stuff. How loyal, how loving, break out the Kleenex, blah, 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 wah, 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 man's best friend. They made a statue of the dog. I kid you not. The statue of the dog who sat around 9 years waiting for a dead guy. In my opinion, that dog was a ninny, a numbskull, a nincompoop. I'm yours. Let me tell you about being man's best friend. Being man's best friend can mean a lot of things. Companionship, belly rubs, tennis balls. But it can also mean a dark, endless highway and an open truck window. It can mean the smell of wet wind as hands grab the box you're in with your brothers and sisters and you go sailing into the unkind night. And still, crazy as it sounds, you're thinking, but I'm yours. That's what being man's best friend can get you. A black highway, an empty box, and no one in the world but you. I don't remember much about my early puppy days. It was 3 years ago, but sometimes it feels like 300. Mostly, I recall fighting with my sibs for the primo meal spot. Lots of squirming and squeaking. Everything soft and milk-smelling and movable. Like we were one giant, big, complicated animal. I never met my dad, and my mom didn't say much about him except that he was trouble. My mom had a beautiful fawn coat. Chihuahua, some of this, some of that. Nice messy bloodline. Mutts rule. Mom crooned to us, told us stories, laid down the law. I wonder if she knew she didn't have much time to prepare us for the world. We were born in a dark place, probably under some porch stairs, I suspect, since I remember the sound of boots plodding up and down, and the biting, ugly smell of human feet. They called my mom Rio, and they fed her most days, though sometimes she had to fend for herself. She never showed fear toward them or respect. Indifference, I guess you'd say. unless they tried to handle one of us. She growled then, hoping to make it clear that we were hers and hers alone. I myself got picked up a couple times. The hands reached in and grabbed. They were rough and smelled of strange scents, bitter and meaty. My mom's growl made me fearless. I wriggled and yipped. The hands shoved me back to the warm place where I could sleep and drink and dream in safety. Still, I understood, in my simple puppy way, that dogs belong to humans. And that was how it would always be. Mom wasn't much for names. She had a lot of litters. I guess she'd run out of ideas. My brother first was Natch, the firstborn. Runt, my youngest brother, was the last. Dot had a little spot on her back, and Yip was always complaining. I was Rowdy, goes without saying, and that left my oldest sister. We all called her Boss. Boss was small but mean, with a distinctive sharp-sounding bark. She could outmaneuver any of us to the best spot for dining. I admired her grit, even if she did get on my nerves. When we got a bit older, less blind, more cocky, I fought her off occasionally, but mostly Boss won. She was fearless, that pup. The truck happened without warning one night. They threw us in a box, left my mother behind. I can still hear her frantic howls. I landed in a muddy ditch. It was a cloudy night, nearly freezing. Even the moon had abandoned me. And the smells? Everything was so wild and unknown. Animals with big jaws and bigger appetites. Birds that swooped in to kill. Death and life all mixed together. I searched for my siblings until the truth became clear. I was utterly alone.